of you haven't met me before, my name is Katrin, and I'm working at the Swedish Equestrian Federation mainly with issues regarding the systematic work for safe sport, including empowering youth leaders and different preventive measures to against different types of violence against children. For example, bullying, harassment, violation, and abuse, including sexual abuse. I'm also working with the researchers within this area together with our advisory board for the safe sport issues. And there's so many different aspects connected to this area, and we won't be able to talk about them all today, but I will focus on some parts from the Swedish Federation's work for safe stables, and starting with some examples from previous studies and research, followed by some key learnings from this work, connected also to the youth leadership course, and finally the tools that we use in Sweden in our youth leadership program. And I tend to talk quite a lot when talking about this topic, but I have planned or left some time at the end if there will be anything that we would like to discuss, but also if there's any questions, all the questions are good questions. So part one, the youth needs. So in 2019 and in 2021, we did a national benchmark analysis in the equestrian sport in Sweden together with the Friends Foundation. And in the past 2 decades, the Friends Foundation has worked to empower youth to take stand against violation and bullying. And together with Friends, we have collected voices from over thousands of children, as well as young and adult leaders in equestrian sport, to find out what they need and also what we need as a federation to improve. And in Sweden, we educate around 500 young leaders every year. And the youth leadership course is the core for youth leadership. But the stable, as any social arena, could also have a negative side where hierarchy can lead to bullying, fear, and violation. And we will look a little bit more into that now. Children's exposure to bullying, harassment, and abuse, it's a societal problem. And in the Article 19 of the Convention of the Rights of the Child, the United Nations states that bullying is a serious form of violence against children, and that children have the right to live a life completely without violence. And so even though many young people have their best time, hopefully, because we want everyone to feel that way, of course. So even though many have the best time when maybe the stable is the only place where they can feel safe, unfortunately, that is not the case for everyone. And we have developed several films highlighting good examples, but we have also produced films that show the contrast between how it may look on the outside and how it may feel on the inside. And these are also films that could be translated into other languages. But I will show you one example, and this one is in English, has English subtitles, but it has Swedish voices as it is now. And the purpose of this film is to inspire and accelerate the conversation about what equestrian sport we should do for children and youth, and to promote an environment that is free from any type of abuse. And the examples in the film are cases that are based on real youth experiences of bullying from our previous studies.
Jag älskar att vara i stallet. Stallet är min frizon. En plats där jag får vara mig själv. Precis som jag är. Jag älskar att vara i stallet. Här får alla vara med. Jag måste visa nu. Okej, kolla era mobiler nu, kolla. Men gud! Det är så skönt att bara släppa allt annat och hänga med mina vänner. Jag älskar att vara i stallet.
När jag är i stallet känner jag mig trygg.
Jag älskar att vara i stallet. Jag älskar gemenskapen, hästarna och allt runt omkring. Jag får fjärilar i magen när jag tänker på det.
Stallet ska vara en trygg plats. En plats där alla kan känna pirret och inte klumpen i magen. Öppna ögonen, reagera och agera. Tillsammans för en trygg ridsport.
When we talk about violation, it is described as an act that makes the person who is exposed to it feel sad, hurt, or less worthy. And when we talk about abusive treatment, it is a term that implies conduct that violates a child's dignity. And harassment is when someone is violated on one of the 7 grounds of discrimination. And in the different studies, we've looked into, for example, the leaders' experiences in working with value-based leadership and social sustainability, their experiences of negative jargon, abuse, and violations among youths in their activities, but also their assessment of how to integrate the preventive work into their activities, and their experiences of local and national support for their role and responsibilities as well. But also how it looks connected to the local collaboration and how to act in situations when a child are experiencing different kind of, for example, violations and harassments. And here's an example on what we found. So the areas where negative jargon was most common, in this case, was connected to performance, equipment, clothing, appearance, and who we are friends with. But we saw examples within all of these areas. But also this depends on who's answering the questions, what perspectives we have, and so on. So yeah, but we had we saw examples from all of these different areas. About violations, in total, 1/3 of all respondents were aware of 1 or more cases where a child or youth had been violated by a leader during the last year. And in total, almost half of all respondents were aware of one or more cases where a child or youth had been violated by another child during the last year. And we also see that the more we raise awareness and raise knowledge on this topic, we also see an indication on that the amount of, I would say, people who speak up and take help and so on also increases, which in that sense is good, of course, even though we don't want it to happen at all, or the exposure shouldn't happen, but it's good that at least more people are reaching out. What we also saw is like some of for this part 2 in the key learnings, the younger youth leaders took great responsibility in both the preventive, in preventive roles, and as key actors when children are abused or violated. One young leader said that they put all the responsibility on us youth leaders, for example, to tell the children if they do something in the stable. The adults pass by without acting, even if they see something, and if we point it out, they only say that it is our responsibility. Another young leader said, we need more adults that do not close their eyes to what is going on around them. More support from adults. It usually feels as if adults in our association leave the social safety issues to us younger because, quote, we are hanging out more in the stable, which in my opinion is wrong. And these young leaders are, like the examples here are from, or many times from children, as leaders that are under 18. And we also have quotes connected to social media, for example, groups and group chats, from the groups on Snapchats and so on, and that there are harassments or violations happening there without any adults knowing, and that the youth leaders feel that they are lonely in the sense that, for example, now I know all of this, but what can I do, or whom can I turn to for support? We cannot stress enough how important this is, that children's safety is always adults' responsibility. We see in our studies that the young leaders want to engage in creating a positive or caring environment for the children in the stable, but they need to know their rights, and they need to know that they are not alone, and that they have the right to get support from adults around them. For, like I said before, sometimes young leaders ask us, like, oh, this happened. A friend told me that this happened, but I promised not to say anything. So even, I mean, that's also another side of it, that it's like even children who hasn't been exposed themselves might also be in need for support. So that is also an important part to this. For the Swedish Equestrian Federation, the safety issues is a focus area for both youth and adults. And based on the youth leaders' needs and experiences, we have developed a mentorship model with which is the core for all our education programs. But as you see on the left side, for the young leaders, it's mostly focusing on an empowering approach with the promotion and the preventive work. And for the adults, it consists also about how to take action with tools and guidelines connected to the responsibility as adults, for the adult leaders. And what we see also is that the more we talk about this topic, we also create a language for the things that might be difficult to put into words sometimes. Because when we can also make the more difficult subjects more clear, so the more we talk about them, and also it gets easier to understand them. And then it can also be easier for the children to ask for help, and for us as coaches and adults to take action when we need to. But at the same time, the safe sport work is of course not only about acting when we detect, if we detect, and when we detect something. The main areas are the promotion and the preventive work. And I would say, because for example, the promotion, it happens all the time. Maybe we don't even think about it. For example, saying hello, or being kind to other people, or to include all the children in the activities and so on, and different ways or tactics and how to do that in the best way possible and so on. But why is this important then? I'm thinking now I could give an example, because let's say that we're standing and at the stable, and we're looking out on the field, and we see a horse, so that we see a rider, a child is riding on that field, and suddenly the horse gets frightened and it runs towards us, because the child is trying desperately to just stop the horse, but is staring towards us. And we catch we get hold of this horse, and we make sure that the child stops to cry, and we try to make the best of this situation. But maybe we look up and we see there's more horses coming, running, cantering towards us, with more children who needs help. And then maybe we're standing there with 2 or maybe 3 horses, and we look up again a third time, and then we see there's even more horses coming, running or cantering towards us. Then what do we do? What do we do then? So then we have, of course, to ask ourselves, where are the horses coming from? And where are the children coming from? What's the reason for this happening? For example, maybe there are no other adults present to help these children on the other side of that hill, for example, or field. Maybe the children don't have enough knowledge about how to handle the horses in a safe way. Maybe there's a new leader at the stable, and we don't have any routines in how to inform new leaders and so on. And maybe there's no forums at all for youth to discuss different topics that could prevent this from happening. And that is also why it is, or why working with the Safe Stables toolkit and different materials in the youth leadership course, that is why that is such an important resource or tool for us to prevent violations before they happen, which is what we want. And there are so many other learnings, but for example, connected to the communication, there's maybe there's someone who is responsible for these issues. For example, I know some clubs in Sweden have the responsible person's a picture of the responsible person on the wall in the stable, or maybe also on the website. And another side of this is to make the values visible, so everyone knows about them. For example, we stand for human rights and against bullying, and we have, for example, regarding the routines for when you become aware of a situation of abuse, for example, then that everyone knows about that as well. For example, these are the steps that we take when we learn that a child feels exposed. And when the children knows that, it would also be easier for them to reach out as well, because then they know what might happen because it's so hard to dare to speak up if you have been exposed. There's so many aspects connected to that, but yeah. So communication, of course, is also about how we act, and that all leaders have a consensus on what it means. And the second part here, to include the youth, and to include the youth for real. And that means, for example, to always take the stories of the children and young people seriously, to never minimize a situation or experience of insecurity, exclusion, or violations, and make children involved in developing and working with the program. Because if they are included, the chance increases that they feel trust in us as coaches and adults. And that is also something that we found in our studies and when we've done the follow-up studies. So the last part, the tools. So between 2012 and 2015.
Catherine, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
For information for the coaches, this tool was sent to the National Federation. We translated it in English, and the English version is already shared with the three national federations, the Bulgarian, the Hungarian, and the Norwegian. So your federations, they will share the content with the coaches, and you can use it.
That's perfect. Thank you, Theodore. And the version that you have received, or that is on the OneDrive now, that was updated in 2018, but we are currently updating it again. So very soon we will have more material to use specifically for the young, but also the adult leaders. And it includes, for example, this toolkit. It includes, I have it here beside me as well, to see that, like this green green box, and it includes different collaboration exercises, games, and friendship cards. For example, you see the box with the hands on the top of in the middle of the picture there. And I talked to a coach for the youth leadership course yesterday, actually, and we talked a little bit about challenges and so on, and how the group interacts, and she specifically mentioned that some of the children are a bit shy in the beginning, and that they don't dare to go straight up and talk to each other and so on, because they've never met before and so on. But she said that in her experience, this toolbox was great to use. For example, the collaboration exercises and these games, because then they also get a chance to know each other, and then of course they learn new things, but they also maybe get new friends on the way. And what's also important to mention connected to this toolkit is that the tools has been developed by youth for youth. So the central youth section in Sweden are the ones who has initiated this toolkit, and also took great part in developing it together with the Friends Foundation. And how more examples on how the material is being used can be found through, we use different hashtags, for example. So these are the 2 hashtags that we use regarding these tools. So there you can also find, maybe most of them are in Swedish, but there are some pictures and so on how the different material, and also more examples on materials that are on the online platform that we have. And the toolbox and the other tools are also used in the stables by the young leaders after the youth leadership course, because in Sweden, all riding schools has got this box. And Elin, who is on the picture here, she won the first Safe Sports Award that we give out every year. And that was for her work against bullying at her local riding club. And she said that we are trying to raise awareness among both young people and parents about how to behave online. The club has guidelines on how to behave on social media, and we have also had great lectures on the theme. And in our follow-up studies, we see that many young leaders, actually, that they are many times turns out to be one of the most important person in a child's life. And they also inspire others to make change, so that everyone or every child should be able to feel safe within or in the stable. Thank you.